Happy New Year, and welcome into this week's edition of Intercollegiate Conversations. So we put a bow on a great 2024 that featured a lot of wonderful conversations with some great people in college athletics. So this week, we're going to do something a little bit different as we take a look back at some of those conversations we had with administrators throughout college athletics. How much change do you think you've seen in the industry? And I'm not talking necessarily about name, image, and likeness, transfer, all that stuff, but kind of like the behind the scenes of your daily jobs and the way the industry works and hiring and everything. How much change do you think you've seen over the years?
Hiring, I think what I've seen is it is harder and harder to get that pool that you want through the years. I think after COVID, it's been a little tougher, right? There's a lot of people that are looking for that remote job, and college athletics isn't a remote job. So I've definitely seen a difference in that whenever I've posted a job of the quality of the candidates and what kind of candidates we're getting is a little different. I think a lot of people have an image of what college athletics is in their minds, and once you've done it for a few years, you really understand that it's more than just the games. There's a lot that goes behind the scenes to make those games happen, and it's really finding those people that understand that and really, I guess, have a greater purpose for the work, right? We're not making millions of dollars. We're working hard for very little pay, and you're putting in extra hours. But if you love the job, then it's not work.
I would say probably over the last 5 years, I've noticed the biggest change, and I think COVID had a lot to do with that. Um, People were able to step away, spend time away from the daily grind of what we do athletically, the 7 days a week, the 60, 65, 70 hours a week. Granted, the summers are pretty cool. But people were able to sit back and say, hey, for the amount of money I'm making, I can have a life, still provide a living for my family. So I do think the applicant pool in athletics has dwindled based on how people view the quality of their life.
Yeah, I mean it's changed a lot. I mean, especially so the height and peak of COVID too. It's like early kind of prior before that, it was kind of really the start of like embracing the digital space on it. Like people were starting to add data positions full time and really kind of understanding the value of digital marketing pieces and like hiring full-time positions for those and especially like realizing how important social media is now. And that side of things has changed where you don't need to necessarily rely as heavily on the media to get your word out. Like you have your own channels of X and Instagram and Facebook and your own stories and outlets. Obviously, media is still important, but it's shifted different. And then you move to a world where everything's online and you don't aren't able to have fans and have to change strategy. And you're trying to sell people on tuning in and engaging with you online. And then the world kind of opens back up, and now it's like, well, hey, actually, just kidding. We need you to come back on it. So there's been some trends and season tickets going up and then down post that. So it really has just changed a lot. I mean, now NIL is obviously the next biggest thing on the horizon and conference realignment and things like that. But at least from a market standpoint, is like as quick as technology is changing, I mean, things change with us. I mean, it's as simple as, I mean, X or Instagram or Meta obviously can like change an algorithm or change the way something is done. And it could completely have to change the way you're doing all your digital strategy and your ads of reaching people. And you may not be able to reach them as easily anymore, or get as much information. So it's really just trying to like stay on top of it, and it's hard to pivot like in especially the collegiate athletic space. It's not always easy to just create a position and hire them, and I think a lot of pro sports have a little more wiggle room in that area of kind of understanding those needs and getting those positions done. Where here we're trying to cover so many sports, and some of them are like revenue focused, some of them are more attendance and support focused. So it really just I feel like every few months something crazy happens and changes, but really trying to keep up with them. But I'd say technology has really kind of been the biggest change and will continue to be going forward.
For sure. I mean, I've noticed it. I mean, I think COVID hurt it a lot as well. But when I was late in my time at UCF, this would have been, I don't know, 21, 22. I remember hiring for some positions, and we'd have the history in our like on our website of our hiring, and I'd go back and I looked at some of the pools from like 2016, and I was like, we this same exact position we had 200 candidates apply, and now we have 54. Like, so yes, that's the truth. We've seen that happen. Um, the the big thing for me, at least now, with there was a big surge with these creative roles that kind of that developed and that were born in the college athletics world, right? And they were fun, they were exciting. A lot of people wanted to do them. Um, Now in the last 5 years, you've seen more of the opportunity that these creatives have to go out and do their own thing, have three, four side jobs, and make more money than they would at an athletics department. So that's one of the big challenges that I'm seeing in hiring, especially on the creative side, is finding people that want to that feel the need that they have to have a full-time job. It's like some of these kids like, oh, okay, I'll just go and have three or four freelance jobs and I'll make just as much and I won't be tied down to something. So I found that to be a specific challenge. And finding the people that are in it for those same reasons. They're fewer and further between, but they're still out there. I got a couple of great ones here, so you guys got to find them.
What would you suggest for others to look for in a school to know, hey, this is a good opportunity for me?
For me, I would probably be, what do I want? I want to be a part of a community like I have here. Like if that was something I was looking for. We were at a town festival a few weeks ago, like and like we can't go, my wife and our son, we can't go 20 feet without knowing someone and talking to them. Like I love that. You're not going to get that small town feel everywhere. You can get it in, bigger cities as well. I think it's just creating that community and what it looks like. The biggest thing is finding out, I think for me, is finding out what's important to you. I think that there are places for people they're tremendous places, and it might not be the right fit. And so really figuring out what those things are depends on where you are in life as well. I came here young and single, and I'm not anymore. And so like those decisions for us, and I'm assuming for other people, when you have family, I've talked to people they've had kids that have had some medical concerns, and where they are, and so being a little bit more rural is not really a possibility. So really finding out what's important to you. And I think that Zoom is great for stuff like this. It is great for an extra, when we are interviewing, you can get in front of people and see them. And I think it's great, but like, there's nothing that can compare the face-to-face and kind of being in an environment and walking around and the little things, the way people look after something. And I think what level of support do you want? Because I think support can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so where are you going, or how are you going to be happy? And I think really it's prioritizing what's important to you in that moment. And
For me, the biggest thing is kind of those first conversations you have with the people you're going to be working closely with. Obviously, you want to work around people that are hardworking and that understand it and that want the best for you. But the thing that always clicks for me is people that understand change and people that understand forward momentum. And you can kind of gather that in your first couple of conversations with people and kind of what they're looking for in somebody in a role that you're going for. And for me, that's a big thing. I'm not interested in being somewhere where people are fine with the status quo. I'm not interested in being somewhere where people are okay with just good enough, or this is how we've done it before, or anything to that nature. I'm more of the what can we do that's different, and that's in every facet of what you're doing. What can we do that's new? What can we do that's better? What can we do that's innovative? And those are the conversations that I look to have early on in the process when I'm chatting with people about potential opportunities. I think that's really important.
That's a great question. And one thing, and I recommend this to a lot of people. One of the things that my wife and I did, and this is probably going back about 14, 15 years ago, when I got to a point where I thought I was ready to be an athletic director, I wanted to stay at the Division I level. So you look at the time, there was probably 350 Division I schools. Well, there's certain criteria based on, geography. Where do you want to live? Sports sponsorship levels, level of support in the community or the fan base. not every job is created equal. Not every job is built for success or set up for success, or at least the opportunity for success. So we put together some criteria that were really important to us as a family and for me as a career standpoint to say, okay, let's whittle the 350 down to maybe there's 40 or 45 schools that really make sense for Matt Larsen or whoever the person may be. And so then as those jobs become open, then there's opportunities to take a look. And then you also know too, when other jobs open up and maybe somebody reaches out and said, would you be interested? Well, I know the answer to that is no. And I'm not going to waste their time because it doesn't fit into the criteria that we've put together. And so I think that's a really important exercise, whether you're an assistant coach, whether you're a GA, an entry-level position, a director level, whatever it is, looking down the road at, because then what you start to do is you start to build a profile that's going to allow you to be successful at that next opportunity. You start building your experiences based on where you hope your career path is going to go. And then if you work for folks, and I've been fortunate in my career to have really good mentors who understood kind of my career goals and helped position me, whether that's with additional responsibilities or experiences or whatever it might be, to kind of make sure I was bettering myself and bettering my resume as I move forward in a young career.
But how important is networking in college athletics?
Oh, it's super important, but I also think it's it's kind of a twofold. It's not only just kind of staying in touch and seeing how people are doing. It's not just when you need something, it's just genuinely, hey, how are you doing? Just wanted to see, especially this time of year as it comes up on the holidays. But it's also how you treat people when you're at your positions or who you're working with. I was fortunate to have a conference background, so you kind of are more intertwined with all of the people at your different schools being at a conference, and that's all ultimately what helped get this position here at Eastern Washington, because Eastern is a member of the Big Sky Conference. So it's just how you also are working and connecting with people, whether it's at your job or at being at a conference and working with a school, of how you treat those people, because it's a big but yet small industry at the same time. Everyone seems to know everyone, so you're about a second connection away from knowing just about everyone in the industry.
Critical. And I don't even know if you need to do it a lot or all the time, but you need to have some vital relationships across the country in your region, maybe in some separate conferences, some separate levels of schools. But that's the only reason why I'm here. It's the only reason why I've gotten every job that I've gotten, including grad school. So I'm a big believer in it. I don't even think that I'm that great at networking across the country, but you hold on tight to the few that you have, and it can really, change your career and change the trajectory of your life. And I keep the ones that have gotten me here really close to me, and I hope to meet a few more along the way, across a lot of different areas. But I'm a Southeast guy, so it really helps to be connected in the Southeast. And I think I've never really had much of a plan. I've just tried to do the job that I've had well, and the next thing comes. But because of doing the job well, you meet people, and then that's when they vouch for you, when they trust who you are and the respect that you've garnered for the job that you've done. So I don't really focus on it a whole lot. I think it just inherently happens by being in the industry and being in a bigger name school. I think people pay attention to who the hires are and where they're going and where they've come from.
It's everything. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And you see jobs, and I mean, Ed Conroy, we hired Ed back. Obviously he was a strong candidate, but I knew Ed since 1996. I've known Ed forever. I mean, so just different things like that. But it's I think making those contacts and then staying in touch with those contacts, and that doesn't have to be a big thing. Like I said, I'll get ready here. I'll write all my guys that are at Division I schools that, Mark Byington just got the Vanderbilt job, a new friend of mine. And I write them all a letter, congratulate them, and say, hey, good luck. I'm thinking about you. If I can ever help you, let me know. So, and we're going down to play Mark this year, so I'm excited about that. But it's all about, and I know communication, when you say that, it's changed now. It's not like it used to be, and things are quick and easy and this and that. But what people will remember is if you take the time to reach out for them. I can tell you that.
And the world gets smaller and smaller the longer you work. I think about when I first got into college athletics and I went to my first conference and I knew nobody. And, again, I'm an outgoing person, but it's awkward when you're trying to know someone and get to know someone and you don't have that. And now I go to a conference or, we travel with our basketball team and there's somebody that we know, or football team, and there's somebody I know. The world gets smaller and smaller, and that's kind of what I love about it. My athletic director in Corpus Christi worked with my athletic director here in Commerce. And when the job opened, he called me and said, "Hey, have you looked at the Commerce position?" Right. And to have those people in my life that are connected also is great. But yeah, no, the athletics world, college athletics world, it gets smaller and smaller every year I'm in it.
What do you think is something that you know now after all your years working in this field that you wish you knew maybe when you were first starting out that would have helped you and can help young people getting into this industry now?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is to start conversations. And something that's really benefited me is to continue to learn. And so start conversations, ask questions, learn about people's pathways, because a lot of times people make assumptions how individuals ended up where they did, and when really everybody has their own unique pathway. So the more you can build relationships, learn from others, you're only going to grow and become a better whatever fill in the blank you are, coach, administrator, etc. So that would be the biggest thing. Is the other piece is that it's a really small industry and that you never know who knows somebody. So again, the more you build relationships, the more positive relationships, the more that can only benefit you down the road.
The value of listening. I don't. It's something. Same thing. My parents are both educators, and I didn't realize it until I was 25, late 20s. How much the importance of education, how much they ingrained that in me. Because you're young and you're just kind of going through life and trying to figure out what you're gonna have for lunch. And so listening. I was talking to. I was in some of our mass communications classes last week, and I'm trying to recruit students to work our ESPN Plus broadcast and get them experience. They get paid, real ESPN on their resume. Like, this is the best situation. And had a student, one of the professor had a question. It was kind of a leading question. And I said, the other thing to do is you're coming, you're going to get your camera set up, go sit in the production trailer and listen. Like, it's so valuable. Every once in a while afterwards, ask a question or two, to understand why. I think that for me, I was probably there already, but sometimes just listening, you don't have to say a word. We have one coach. I know I can tell it when he walks in my office. He comes in, shuts the door. He just needs to say stuff for 5 minutes. And that's the role we serve, and he leaves. So just listening and then, taking that and kind of understanding where his program is and where we are. But just listening. I think that's the biggest thing.
Don't fake it till you make it. I think people can really see through artificial people, and this is a people-based job. I'm a very people-based person, and I've always just been me. And I'm a big advocate of staying true to who you are, because people will feel that it's fake if you're trying to not be that. And so I'm lucky that I am who I am, and I'm proud of that, but I've never veered off of that. And I've never tried to change me, principally, foundationally, fundamentally. I'm me. I'm the same guy that was, a high school soccer player trying to get recruited. I'm the same guy that was playing in college, trying to get involved on campus. I'm the same guy that I was in grad school. I'm just me. And so I think a lot of people forget that and they don't stick to who they are. And I think that's why I've had the career that I've had, because it's a relationship job, and donors, staff, administration, they want to know who you are, but they're not going to really help you unless they trust that you are who you are. So I think I've just been able to be genuinely myself, and it's just worked. And I don't plan on changing that, because I don't really know how to change that either. But you need a little bit of luck along the way, of course. You need to know the right person to get lucky, and you need to be prepared for that. But I don't really think I've I probably haven't grown up that much either or matured, but because I'm staying the same, but at the same time, uh, I like being me and I don't like not being me. And I think a lot of young people just need to not forget that. And they might be gunning and trying to do something that they're not to try to get to where they want to go. But I think they're only going to get there if you're you.
From a lighthearted perspective, I probably would have like looked up and like taken in the scene a little bit better. Like I probably had my head down, was so focused that I didn't look up and say, wow, this is pretty cool. I got to work in college sports. Like, look at all the things that I get to do, that and the people and the experiences that I'm exposed to. So that's more on the lighthearted side, but something that I'm like, that would be interesting. I do, and I say that to grad students a lot often from the perspective of like I got, and as you stated earlier, I got my master's degree from the same place that I got my undergraduate degree, which was great. And I'm very grateful for it. Another way to look at grad school and college athletics is there's a lot of graduate assistant opportunities that take you to places that you may never go again in your life. So, and you're not, it's not a full-time job. So you're not tied to that area for the rest of your life. So think of in your early 20s, stereotypically, you're coming out of college. Think about grad school as a 2-year adventure where you can go and work in a completely different environment, and you're going to get a great degree from somewhere and a totally different experience. And you probably look back on that 30 or 40 years later and be like, oh, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I took that risk. Because moving when you have a full-time job, regardless of who you are, is a much bigger commitment. So I would say that from an education perspective, I would probably tell myself I should have gotten deeper into law degrees and that sort of sports business law. Just from the way the world's turned, I took a series of law classes in college and they've served me very well. But just knowing where the world is now, like a deeper knowledge base in that probably would have made me more effective at my job.
Listen, there's two things in this world that I've learned through the course of my time in college athletics is no one can work harder than you. And if working hard means you need to pick up a broom or you need to mop a floor or you need to pull out a bleacher, don't be afraid to do it. And no one can outwork you. Human nature is a terrible opponent, and it gives us excuses to say life isn't fair and this is too hard. I learned that there's two types of people in this world, those that do the work and those that take the credit. And I would suggest being in the first group, there's a lot less competition. So don't be afraid to work. And the other thing that I think that's missing, not only in college athletics, but in society as a whole is, listen, no one can be nicer than you. And it's a strength to be nice. And people are unkind because they are not comfortable being vulnerable. Now, when people mistake your kindness as a weakness, well, then you turn around and kick their butt, whatever that might be. But I would say the key that I try to explain to people is in order to gain trust and confidence as you as employer, I think you need to be prompt, polite, prepared, and you'll be productive. And that's the 4 Ps to the success of what we've had here at Quinnipiac. And it's simple, but it's honest advice that I would tell everybody and do tell everybody that's a candidate for a job or on a daily basis with our coaches and our student athletes.
Best piece of advice you've ever been given in your life and your career that has played, a big role or is playing a big role for you now in your career?
Yeah, I say like don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Like you're never too big for any task. And I mean, I try to do that now. I mean, with our staff too, like if I'll be out there sometimes at baseball throwing t-shirts, right? Like I'm never like I'm not gonna be too important to sit at a marketing table or help our interns roll t-shirts or whatever it may be. I always say like it's the best to just get in there and do what needs to get done. Like I said, I'm the biggest, like whatever's going to make us successful, let's get in and do it no matter what it takes from my end, whether I want to do it or not. It doesn't matter. Like if it's going to be the end goal, that's the best piece of advice I can give you. Because again, those experiences are going to help you long term, but it's also going to, there's just so many benefits to doing those pieces of just getting in there and doing what needs to get done.
So I keep a little note in front of me, and it says focus on the things that add value. And that's both resource allocation, that's our people. The greatest qualities of top producers are humility, learning, discovery, growth, and a passion for serving others. And then finally, grittiness. And so if I keep reminding myself personally, if I'm doing those things, then we're going to see positive outcomes. And I share that with my leadership team too. And it's like, again, guys, if we remember that we're serving others and we focus on these things, because in athletics, every day is a new day. It can be very unique and get pulled in different directions. But remember to stay focused on what's important, then we're going to have the outcomes that reflect it.
One of the best things I heard was when I was in college, actually. It's not about having time, it's about making time. Um, which in college I didn't really understand it because time wasn't as precious then, but especially having two young kids at home, family across the country. You got to make time for things, whether it's activities with the kids, vacations, talking to parents or grandparent for me. Um, it's not the most convenient thing to do every weekend, but it is important. So it's one of those things that it's one of those things I tell myself that, hey, I really have time to do everything? No, but you have to make time for what are those important priorities in life. And it's kind of same thing on a much smaller scale at work. You got to make time for, hey, if the athletics director comes in and says, hey, I need this project, you make time for it. So, um, but no, that's probably the best life advice that I've gotten, is making time for the things that are important to you.